Hi, I'm David Fleming from the Disciples Ignited YouTube channel, where we're focused on Jesus, advancing his kingdom, and preparing his disciples. Now, we've been studying these revival outpourings that have been taking place throughout church history, and over the past few videos, we've been focusing in on the Great Awakening that took place in America in the 1700s. Now, there were two peaks that took place in the Great Awakening. The second peak, which was the strongest, was taking place from 1740 to 1742. But after the second peak of the First Great Awakening, after it ended, there were spasmodic revival outpourings that occurred throughout America, particularly among the Methodists and the Baptists of the South. But unfortunately, at the same time, the spiritual fervency of the middle and north sections of the country was declining. So that shows us that every revival builds up to a peak, and then once that peak is reached, it seems to decline. That doesn't mean that revival is over. It just means that it takes a lot more effort and prayer to keep those fires burning. Now, there was a Pentecostal type revival that broke out in Virginia in 1773, and it reoccurred in 1787. So it just shows you that during a revival outpouring that there's all different outpourings that take place in this massive outpouring. Now, the Presbyterians also experienced a powerful revival outpouring in 1787 that lasted until 1789, and it deeply influenced the denomination. Now, in their estimation, it was the most important and most powerful revival outpouring that took place during the Great Awakening. However, there wasn't another massive revival outpouring during the First Great Awakening era after the peak of 1742. Now, the revival outpourings that did take place after 1742, they were the exception, but they weren't the rule. Sadly, the power and the presence of the Lord that had been so felt during the peak years, it was beginning to decline. They were a thing of the past. But there were some reasons for this. The French and the Indian War that was taking place from 1754 to 1763, and more importantly, the American Revolution that took place from 1776 to 1783, they did much to dampen the spiritual climate of America. Oh my goodness. The generation after the American Revolution had a form of godliness. They didn't forget what their parents had learned. They just didn't share in the fervency of it. They had a form of godliness, but they didn't have the power of the gospel. One of the books on revival that I have gives this quote: from 1745 to near the close of the century, the Holy Spirit withheld in great measure those copious refreshings which turned so many parched fields into gardens of the Lord. But thankfully, the Lord had another great move that was going to sweep the nation of America. And that is known as probably the greatest outpouring America's ever had, the Second Great Awakening that took place in the 1800s. But there was a lot that took place between the First Great Awakening and the Second Great Awakening. And we'll get to that tomorrow. So join me tomorrow as we study more about revival outpourings that took place in America.